Yeah, hi, this is George Shevchuk, and this is uprightguide.org. And today is June 10th, 2016. And this topic is basically a extract of the Bible condensed into what I think are an overview of the whole thing for somebody that's thinking about studying the Bible, to get an overview picture of what it's all about, and some of the main points that they should gather from it when they do study it. There's so much stuff that, forgive me, I don't have a teleprompter right now, but I'm going to be doing some reading and we'll discuss some points as we go along. The Bible is a record of God's relationship with His creation. One must step back and realize that the underlying theme is the creation and nurturing of the righteousness, which is God's perfect order, and the refinement and development of a remnant, sometimes referred to in the Bible as the elect. There is a point in God's creation when God reveals Himself to what was the first man. It can be argued that without a relationship with God, man remains just an animal. I will not get bogged down here in a debate about evolution, and that God's mechanisms of creation are not of primary importance as far as I'm concerned. This first man, Adam, was made aware of God's existence and that he is the provider of man's needs and his requirement of man's obedience to his instructions, later evolving into his laws. This setting man up in a gender pair with instruction was the first step in a long process that will in the end result in fully accepted children of God living with Him in a spiritual realm that is far superior to the physical existence that we know. The eternal existence near our God in the spiritual realm is beyond our comprehension. The stories of the Bible in aggregate demonstrate the difficulty in developing beings of free will that independently align themselves with righteousness. This righteousness begins with recognition of God's superior order and then developing a desire to have this righteousness. The desire and love for our perfect God enables us to have the right, it enables us to have the right of eternal life, in which our own righteousness will ultimately be perfected. God's ultimate plan is to have children that follow and exist in His perfect order. Now, some of the elements of God's perfect way are love, compassion, mercy, sacrifice, and of course, obedience to God. Our dying to our own egocentrism enables us to receive knowledge, wisdom, and discernment from God. That is why we should not boast, because things that most people pride themselves in are gifts from the Creator. Anyone can be made handsome, pretty, intelligent, and dynamic, but only a few will have it in themselves to recognize and love God and His way. The tendency of the universe is to flow from order into disorder. So the process of refining man closer to God is a very difficult, time-consuming process. Man constantly bucks like a jackass trying to disrupt God's program. There are constant rebellions in regards to chains of command, the priorities and His priorities and schedules. Starting with Abraham, God chose a people unto Himself that eventually came to be known as Israelites. He loved Jacob and the namesake of Israel, but He hated Esau, who is the father of the Edomites. Esau was entitled to a birthright from God. It meant so little to Esau that he gave it up for a bowl of stew. This initiated a struggle between the descendants of Jacob and the descendants of Esau that continues to this day. The essence of this confrontation is the conflict with the people that have an inclination towards God versus a people that are egocentric, like Satan was, and are therefore enemies of God. Now, the identity of these two groups in our modern society have been convoluted to a remarkable degree. This has been accomplished because the egocentric rebels of God are masters of deception. As people intermix in marriage and out of marriage over the centuries, the genetics of these two groups have been salt and peppered primarily throughout the people of the West and Middle East. Jesus taught us that you can tell the genetic inclination of a person by their fruits. Jesus said, "My sheep know my voice," further illustrating the genetic type that Jacob, Israel, had. This godly characteristic can be found in all people, but the descendants of Jacob, Israel, that is, have the instruction of the Great Commission, bringing the news of Jesus to the world. The Edomites, on the other hand, instinctively hate Jacob, Israel, and anyone that has that type of inclination. The Edomites gravitate to positions of power and influence. Things like types of influence such as economics, politics, medicine, finance, law, and religious leadership, and the media, by the way. Any position from which they can have credibility to deceive and the power to exploit. The Jacob Israel people have a hard time comprehending the evil that Edomites do. Edomites divide and conquer. They destroy nationalities. They murder and maim. And while they profit, they are cryptic, hidden that is, among us. And they are everywhere. They are among the Jews and among the Gentiles, and probably are represented in every major religion and country in the world. They advocate and convince simple-minded academic type people into supporting foolish things like global warming and a multicultural society, which one can be easily disproven, but that's another video, and the other is actually completely destructive to cultures. It's one thing about cultures. When you bring cultures in close proximity and intertwine them with other cultures, all the cultures in the end get destroyed. On that subject, I want to stop for a second out of my notes and just basically ad-lib to that a little bit. I personally do not want to go to France and see a McDonald's. If I ever go to visit China, I want to see Chinese. If I ever want to go here or there, I want to see cultures of the world preserved, and I want to enjoy them and appreciate them and respect them, and not try to destroy them or influence them with my own culture. And that is what is meant by cultures destroying each other. When you have a multicultural society, in the end you have no culture society. You just have a multicultural cesspool. A society which is completely multicultural, that's what I was ad-libbing about, because the cultures destroy one another unless they are kept separate. Cultures are power blocks. Without them, you have a world of disorder that lends itself to a one-world government, ruled by guess who? The descendants of Jacob, likewise, are spread out among Jews and Gentiles, but they usually are deceived by the Edomites. Christianity is the way, the truth, and the life that can lead to an awakening from the trance or spell that most of the world is under. People in the trance are people that are in the trance and that are under the spell. These people are dangerous. Just as Jesus taught us, just as Jesus taught us in Matthew chapter 7, verse 6, don't try to give wisdom to a fool. Also explained in Matthew chapter 10, verse 14. If you truly love God, you will want to know everything you can about him, and that will give you the ability to see if the religious leader in your church is a man for God, or if he is a wolf in sheep's clothing, or a dummy. It could be either one. You don't want to be led by a dummy either. But I suppose a dummy would be better than a wolf in sheep's clothing. In conclusion, remember, without Jesus, we don't have a prayer. If you want to make contact with me, my name is George Shevchuk. My last name is Shevchuk. My email address is gshevchuk, Shevchuk, gshevchuk at optonline.net. That's optonline.net. Discuss, show me where I went wrong, and let's try to have a little Christian communion and see if we can make this world a better place. Thank you.